Yeah, so thank you all for being on the call tonight and this being here for the Blacktastic Adventure. How you guys all doing this evening?
Great.
Doing great, bro. How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for inviting us, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I think just the work you all are doing is just a great story, and hopefully we can do a little bit to just kind of like spread the word about it, and help continue just building templates like this. But with that said, would someone just like to maybe just start from the beginning as far as just talking about how the Fathers Group got started and when it got started?
If nobody minds, I'd like to go on this one. So I moved out to Big Orange. My name is David Merritt. I'm the president of the Fathers Group. And I moved here to Bend, Oregon in 2011 from California. When I got out here, I noticed that there wasn't much of a Black community like where I come from. There wasn't a lot of us here at all. And I met these brothers, my boy Dave here, who's the vice president of Fathers Group, Dave Chisholm. Met him and he introduced me to some people, and the ball started rolling. I met some people, and this brother Marcus, this brother Kelly, this brother Gordon, Dave, Ian. We met, and it was Mosby Water, Jason Graham, and it was like a connection that it's like, man, I haven't had this for years. How you brothers doing? We checked in with each other. It started as kind of like a Fathers Group. What would you call it? Like a lean on my shoulder type thing. We need a support group, basically.
We needed people to talk to, because you would go through certain issues in town, and it would happen. For me, like, I've been out here 15 years, and like certain brothers would have a situation and they wouldn't be able to talk to anybody or have anybody that can relate to them, because nobody believes in any of this exists, or we're tripping or what have you. So it's more of a fellowship thing. And if you're a Black person, you feel like you're about to lose it, you feel, and you need to reach out to somebody, what I'm saying, before it's too late.
There's only certain avenues you can take, when you're a Black man in this society, in this day and age, you can't do certain things without people feeling threatened, feeling like, if too many of us group up, it's looked at as a threat to the community. And it's like, that gets so tiring, and we don't blame, we're not pointing fingers, this and that. We're just saying that that's how we feel. That's how we live every day in this skin, is that we felt like, especially out here, was like we didn't have no community. We didn't have nobody we could talk to. We couldn't call on nobody. We couldn't, there was no shoulders to lean on if we didn't have a lady or something by our side. And we met these brothers, and we all started meeting to just talk about our feelings. We all have kids that were in these schools that were dealing with racism and dealing with just so much stuff. And we're like, well, how do we deal with that without going to the school and losing it and, having a police called or something? So we started talking, we started meeting a couple times a week, and it kind of blossomed to this thing like, what else can we do in the community? What else can we do? Who else can we help? How many other people can we get involved, in this and what we're doing? Because it was working. For the brothers, I can't speak for everybody, but from what I've seen, it was working. We felt like we had some sense of unity, out here. And from there, it just took off into this thing. We were like, well, okay, well, how can we help the kids, and how can we help families? How can we build a better Black community out here, a better community for people of color that could feel welcome,
And also educate the white folks. Because like white people, they have an idea of whatever's in their head, and God bless them and shit. But like, sometimes, like, if you don't know what the hell you fucking talking about, don't say anything. And they just gotta say something all the time and shit. So we're here to let them know, like, it's okay if you don't know what's going on. Like, we're here with you, we're working with you, and you don't have to know everything. Like, we're here together, we're working together, and then it's this fear factor that people have about Black folks, and we're chill. We might be straightforward about our, whatever we got to say, but like honestly, Black folks are more scared of the white people because they control everything. But that's a whole other podcast.
One thing I'd like to add, Dave, is, we got started before this year, right? So this isn't a group that came together just out of the result of, the interactions we saw with the police and Mr. Floyd and everything that happened earlier in 2020. We got this together the year before. So this is a conversation that has been around, and that, again, we had started before what we see now. So I just want to make sure.
Right. And kind of, I just to pull it back as far as like the beginning, you said you came here from California, David, correct? Were you part of like, I guess like any sort of like Black, whether it's like youth programs or things like that, as far as like, I guess like sort of like bringing that template to a place like Bend, because it's something I've seen with, programs in Oregon oftentimes.
I really wasn't. I mean, I've always had a connection to my people, if that makes any sense to people. I've always had a connection to people, period. I'm not a person that really trips off. If you're cool, you're cool. If you're not, you're not. That's my take on people. But I never really was a part of that type of thing. It's just that I had a community back where I came from. So when I came out here and didn't see one, it was like, this ain't right. This ain't what I'm used to. This isn't, there's good and bad with having a Black community, but at least there's a community, people you can talk to. You can go to the neighbor and you can go to so I didn't necessarily come from that and have been involved in any of that before. I'm an artist. I'm a rap artist that's done, been signed, and that's my other, that's my life. And I've been in trouble with the police. I've all of it, the template story for the, the Black man struggle in in America, whatever you want to say. So when I came to Bend, Oregon, it was to get, custody of my daughter, to build a better life for her. So I had my daughter, who was 12 years old at the time, who's now almost 20. And things were so rough for her in school. She would come home crying, and we didn't have to deal with that in California. So it was kind of like a thing that kind of hit a switch for me. And I was like, well, wait a minute. And Dave was going through the same thing. And I'm sure these other brothers were going through it, but I didn't know them. I didn't even know. And when I moved here, I only knew about 5 or 6 brothers here. There's hundreds of brothers here. I didn't even know it. So that made me be like a yearning for home. But at the same time, I don't want to turn this into anything bad, negative. I just want there to be some kind of community. Everybody else has a community. We need a community. We have to be able to talk to people. We have to be able to share our tragedies and our tales to people. We can't do that to white people. They can't relate. They can't understand it. So I didn't necessarily come from that template, but when I seen what was going on out here and there was no togetherness at all, it had to change.
As a matter of life and death, because you have families out here that don't have anything, and you have kids that have committed suicide in high school because they have dealt with racism, and nobody knew that until it was too late. Yeah. Like that's one of the main things. The main thing is, if you are on that edge and you need to speak to somebody, because that's where I was. Like one of the first meetings, like I was on my edge, but I was, luckily for God's grace, I had someone to talk to. But this child, he didn't have anybody to talk to. So that's a main reason why one of these groups are out, because it's a terrible feeling to feel alone. So
yeah. To that point, could y'all just kind of talk a little bit about, I guess and I'm overgeneralizing here, but just like Black life in Bend, and just like you all, I know it's kind of like this very like intergenerational group right here. So it's covering a lot of experiences, but just kind of talk about the experiences in Bend. I know, in a previous meeting when I, talked with some of you all, you talked about, just how many, like when there's like, as far as like Black students who are, adopted out here, people are in like mixed relationships, and just like some of these nuances and dynamics that, even, complicate isn't really a word, but just like make the situation even more nuanced and whatnot. So yeah.
Marcus, would you like to talk on that?
Most definitely. And I know Gordon and Dalton and Trey probably could answer this as well. My thing is this: the racial dynamics in Bend is tough at times, and that's what Dave and Dave were alluding to, is that since we've been so fragmented for so many years, and trying to organize collectively has been hard. So trying to figure out exactly how to approach this and try to reach out to those students and to their families is, we know it's going to be a little bit difficult, but we know it can be done. We have figured out, hey, if we want to build and change the culture in Central Oregon, to not have students who are just adopted, you know, and they're dealing with that side, mixed race families, or of there's a large population, I think it's Ethiopian or Nigerian here as well, and you have that dynamic. And then you have a lot of students who were just born and raised here, and they all spread out throughout these three counties. So trying to collectively bring all those people together and trying to make sure that you understand the intersectionality of all those different things, it makes life simple. But we are charged, and we know for this to happen, we had to come together. And so you see, there's a collective of really dynamic people here. You look at Dalton, you look at Gordon, you look at Dave, and you look at Trey and myself. We figured for this to happen, we gotta unify. And that's what's been unique about what we're trying to do. And through the pandemic, I think it's been even stronger because we realized that collectively we gotta be safe from all the tyranny of the stuff that was going on in the world. So we got to make sure that we continue to stay in front of each other, work with one another. And if Dalton or Gordon or Trey want to answer any more, they can. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'll speak on that a little bit. You know, growing up here in Bend, I'm 28 now, so been here for a minute. Been to like 4 different schools. You know, went to Bear Creek, Jewel Elementary, Pilot Butte, Mountain View. You know, all these schools. I was really separate, I felt, because, you know, I'm like the one black kid, and, you know, I get outnumbered even by the Hispanics. So like, I'm in my own little bracket, and I didn't really have a whole lot of people to talk to. It would have been nice to, you know, have somebody of my culture, you know, that I could go to with problems that I had as a young black man in school. You know, I got bullied. I got called the N-word. I remember, you know, getting suspended because I retaliated to, you know, someone dropping that line, and nothing else really happened after that. It was just me getting suspended. And then, you know, my mom was frustrated that they didn't suspend the other kid, but, you know, nothing after that was done. And that's why I think, you know, I'm really excited to be working with restorative justice. That's what me and Dalton have to do here at 5. I got an interview. I want to like put myself in that situation so that I can heal that situation I was a part of, you know what I mean? For all these other young black kids out here, you know, if they're going through some stuff too, if they're being bullied, you know, whatever's going on, there got to be a place for those kids to go to. I want to help out with that a lot, so.
Yeah, would anyone else like to, I guess, speak on that a little bit?
Go ahead, Gordon.
On life black and Bend.
Yeah.
Oh man. I you know, I've been here for a while too. Not long as Trey. I didn't know you were here, born and raised here. That's awesome, bro. Thank you for surviving.
Yeah, man. That's what I do.
But, you know, I've been here for a little minute too, you know, and I work up at COCC, the community college here. And when I first got there in early 2000s, there were 2 black people on campus, myself and the late night janitor. Those are the only 2. So, and we never saw each other. I think I saw him maybe twice in the 5 years before he retired, that we were both there on campus at the same time. And Cliff, I don't know if Dalton or Trey, if you guys remember, if you know Cliff or not, but anyway. And so I, you know, I've always thought it's kind of, we're in this, and being the only black administrator at the community college, every meeting, every, you know, you're the only one. And then, so it's this weird stance that we have of, you're either invisible or you stand out like a sore thumb in this community, right? We can be, as Trey said, in your own little bracket way out here, but you always stick out because you stick out, right? You can't hide, you can't escape it, right? Because, and that makes it really difficult, right? It's like 2 worlds, those 2 worlds that we walk through in here, right? And then given the dynamics of you know, as we said earlier, of the makeup of a lot of the families here were adopted students or biracial students. I mean, there's another layer of multiple worlds that we have to try to walk through in this town, right? And it makes it, and I think that's natural across the spectrum across the country, but particularly here in Central Oregon, where the divide is so sharp and the contrast is so sharp. We're off balance all the time, right? You're always off balance. You don't know when it's coming, where it's coming from, but you know that it's going to hit you sometime, right? And so, and that was another lesson that I had to pick up pretty quick, because you can become complacent, right? You know, there are many well-meaning white folks. Not every white person is coming from a place of hatred or racism, but the ignorance shows, right? And particularly in Central Oregon, where there's not a diverse population, they're not as educated on you know, what our experience is. They haven't had the chances to interact with.
They mean well. They mean well.
Most of the time, right? But every once in a while, what happens is that the ones that don't come up and smack you upside the head, and you're like, oh, that's right, I forgot I live in Central Oregon.
Yeah.
So, and those happen. Yeah, and I would say it happens at least twice a year, right? That something's gonna happen.
Once a week.
And be like, oh, so for some, right? You know, for sure.
I get looks every day.
Yeah, but so that's something that you just have to walk with, right? You got to walk in those two worlds. You always got who's on your six, who's behind you.
Got to be on guard all the time.
Situations you walk into, and I think that's what the key to what the Fathers Group is, and why I think we've been talking about why we know where our six is now, right? We know who's got our six. We know who's behind us. We know who we can call on when we need, who we can go grub with, who we can go jam with, who we can talk to. As Dave said, I remember that meeting when Dave came in there, and I remember where he was at, and I was very thankful that he had some other brothers there to at least just listen to him, right? Yeah. And so that's the cool thing about the Fathers Group, and it's a support for us as fathers, but it's also support for the community behind us that we're trying to rear in this community and trying to raise children.
Give them that understanding.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Perfectly said. Yeah, that's exactly us. Man.
Yeah, so that's a kind of a great jumping off point to just talk a little bit more about. I know when I sat in on your meeting last week, just looking at like just the breadth of activities like you all are involved in, and well, one, just like how big is the group, out of curiosity?
Time.
I think what do we mark? It's like 20 something deep now. 20 something.
So I kind of handle that side. So it's about 20 deep in terms of different fathers. But here's the thing I want everyone to understand. We know we started when we did our first barbecue, we had about 30 or so black men. Imagine 30 black men in Central Oregon, and this never happened before.
Without 12 police cars.
Yeah,
I bet y'all got some looks, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah. So think about it from that terms. But then what we did is we did the smart thing, I think, and as a group, we know there's a difference between who wants to be in the group and who wants to do the work, right? To make sure the foundation's there, because ultimately that's what we want. You know, we want that foundation of people to be able to pass this on to our kids, so forth and so on. And we are now down to about 16 technically, but more and more people will help and start helping and volunteering and jumping in. So what we didn't purge our roster. We just asked them, what is your rule of engagement? How much you want to be involved in this? What do you want to do? What do you just want to get information? And they gave us that, which is awesome. I'm not going to deny them to be able to handle and take care of their own biz. But we know at the same time too, there's a sacrifice that needs to be made for the up and coming generation. So that's why anybody who gets involved, we love that you want to volunteer and help. Come be part of that, but then also come and be willing to do some of the work too, because we need as much expertise in so many areas, right? Because we want to show professionalism that is far beyond what people think we are. People don't understand Black professionals have to go through a lot to be able to just have one piece of anything in this world. And for us to be able to collectively come together and do this, man, it is phenomenal. So Dalton, like you want to say something on this, but we're about 16 strong right now. But we were looking for more people who were willing to do the work. And you don't just have to be a black male either.
Just a father.
It helps.
It helps, but we want fathers who understand the need and the necessity and the importance of community. We want to bring, because the families are getting torn apart. You know what I'm saying? With every day that passes, you know, with, whether it be technology, you know, the political agendas, whatever, it's tearing families apart. It's been that way, especially in the Black community since what, the 60s to 70s. So what we're trying to do is build back them communities. It doesn't have to be all Black people, but we want Black people to have a place in that community. We want to be able to be Black men, Black women, and not feel shame for it, or we're threatening or anything like that. So
we're trying to
comes
leave
from a community that only understands Black culture.
We're trying to leave our blueprint in the community. Like Marcus talked about it before in one of our meetings about legacy. Like, I want this to grow one day, so when I'm dead, I could leave my position in the group to my son, and then by then it'll be even bigger. Like, this is bigger than oneself. Like, it's bigger than me, Dave, or any of y'all on the other side of the screen. Like, we're trying to create something and show people what we can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about our personal gratitude. Like, this is like for our kids. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm in the group for. The brotherhood, sisterhood, and the growth of our community and bloodlines. Because they trying to wipe us out, straight up.
Yeah. It's always been, I think historically, we have to recognize that the community and the church have been the two institutions, really, that led to our survival across incarceration and enslavement through the new Jim Crow, where we are all right now here in Bend. I came to Oregon in 1991 from New York City.
New York.
Yeah. So, so I want you all to know that I have driven back across this country 29 times. The first 20 or so was because I had to, right? Even though I'm in Portland at Portland State University, and there is a significant number of Black folks there, we did not have an institutionalized community in Portland. You understand, if you go to Atlanta, you don't have to ask where the community is. I mean, you will go there. If you are in Memphis, or if you are in St. Louis, or if you're in Detroit or Chicago, any urban community, the community has been able to survive civil rights. What I mean by that is urban renewal, Negro removal, right? We've had an assault on our institutions of community, both the economic ones and the social ones and the spiritual ones, so that there was a phase where people were leaving for suburbia, and it looked like people for Bend, right? Not only white. Now we have kids and their issues of identity. Who am I? Well, shoot. Excuse me, Dave. Oh, well, shit. If you were half white, half Black, or half Italian, and half Chinese, and so forth, in my generation growing up, guess what? You Black.
You Black.
Ain't no question about your identity. You know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so now the kids are coming along and they, well, I have a choice. I can be either white or Black, right? No. If you look in Bend, kids of color who are interracial have a huge set of issues. They don't want to be identified as being different from their suburban playmates who are white.
Yeah.
At the same time, they know they're Black. They know that there's a history, They may not know the history. They know there is one. They know that the Black celebrities and athletes, they're points of pride. When Joe Louis knocked Max Schmeling on his ass, I cheered as a 4-year-old Black kid in St. Louis. Understand what I'm saying? You have to understand the role that the Fathers Group plays here. It's the role that groups like this could be playing all across this country outside of the enclaves. Or as my Afro-Cuban brother says, outside the reservation. I don't want to go on too long, but you understand the Fathers Group is playing an absolutely foundational and seminal role in helping Black and white kids understand something. And that is Black identity, Black culture built this damn country. Everything that we have achieved in the arts, music, and so forth is
Negro etiquette
out of our
Negro
community.
etiquette. Straight
So
up.
we have to be ready to arm our kids for the onslaught of this Eurocentric, power-focused culture. That's what we're up against. And we're about trying to do that in an honorable, authentic, and prideful way.
Well said, Dalton.
Hey.
Well said, brother.
And to that point, you know, I like that you brought up the church as far as just like the way it serves, you know, for lack of better terms, almost like a wraparound services and just like all these different facets of the community. And I think, you know, again, with what y'all are doing, just like, could you talk a little bit more about, you know, just some of the wide variety of kind of like activities you're doing? I know you talk about, you know, having a meeting about half hour for restorative justice, but yeah, can you just talk a little bit about the different things you all do in terms of your services?
All right, I'll go.
Program
we got a
name.
laundry we have a laundry list, but the thing is though, right now we know that we have to work on the culture first. We know that's going to be one of our first things. We got to definitely make sure the cultural dynamics there. Number two, we know we need to be a system of support for our students, right? Any activities that we are part of, we're going to know we can be a system of support. And lastly, we want academic achievement. That's the thing we're looking for our students, and through entrepreneurship, through arts and entertainment, anything that we're looking at doing. So we started first on, okay, we need a program. Most of us had this in these major enclaves that we came from. We had an after school program. You can call it the Boys and Girls Club, you can call it whatever. But basically we had a place we all could go and unify and work together. So we're trying to build that same thing. You know, rhythmically, you know, that's how we are. That's how we flow. We have that African flow with us. So guess what? That's the way we're going to try to approach this. You know, we're going to start by first doing some sample classes with some of the different forms that we're going to have here in Central Oregon. We're going to be a part of those, be able to facilitate some of those classes. Next, in the summer, we're going to have a summer program where we have a week-long program for just working with different facets of not only the African diaspora, entrepreneurship, entertainment, whatever, just to have the students be able to be a part of classes. And in the fall, we're going to roll out a whole program. So we're going to roll a whole program where students can be dropped off once we find our location, which I'm hoping is going to be downtown because I wanted to be in an urban setting personally. But then at the same time, in the fall, we have classes that students can come throughout the week. You know, we're going to start having where we have book reads. We got a lot of stuff in our brain, but we don't want to go too far because we don't want to overstep our capacity to be able to be effective, right? Other things we're looking at doing down the road is like with small business, getting help for those businesses on how to start those businesses and getting funding for that, okay? Other things we're going to be doing is working with police reform in the sense of not only helping with the hiring process, but also when they have their trainings. Let's talk about cultural sensitivity and what we can do. Appropriation, excuse me. Other things we're going to look at, hey, guess what? Do we need a cadet program to start funneling more African-American men or women toward the police force to be a part of that conversation so it looks and we're a part of that so we know how decisions are being made. But if they don't like it, I don't care. Hey, we need to do it. Those are just some of the things we're looking to do. We know we got so many different ideas, but We know we're going to need volunteers, people to help with those things. We got different organizations who are willing to help us with that for free, which is cool. But at the same time, too, we want to still make sure it's our lens. We don't want to give that up, because if we do that, we lose our identity. And really quick, before I go, I want to piggyback on something Dalton said at the end. We all come from these different places, right? And I've said this before, but I don't know if anyone remembers it or not. I say it this way. We were in those locations, and sometimes I think we took diversity for granted because we were a part of it. You know, we weren't always the ones who was the catalyst for it or create it, but we're engaged in it, and we have that spirit within us. Now that we're here doing it here in Central Oregon, we have to be the catalyst to make sure that our culture doesn't die. I just wanted to piggyback that on to Dalton thing, because I think that needs to be said. We know we have to make sure that our culture continues to be integrated in what any society does.
And to follow up on Marcus, what Marcus was saying, we're, you know, besides the wanting the Black community, we want to help our children and other children so that when they're in school and they have disagreements, it's not over race. Basically, we're trying to take that out of the equation. So if we can provide enough information and provide enough, you know, stories or whatever it takes to reach people, then we can change that whole culture. I mean, we can completely eradicate that. Because if you take the you know, people are only upset and confused and mad at what they don't understand. So if you allow them to understand it, we're hoping, not everyone, this is not 100% cure all, but we're hoping that that understanding can take some of the mystery out of it, can take some of the whatever out of it, and you can just go to normal life and you're arguing over, you know, tether balls or dodgeballs, whatever the kids are doing at school. So we are trying to change a complete culture, a way of life that we had to endure, that we had to grow up in, and we don't want our kids and our kids' kids having to grow up in the same, you know, do the same things. My mother had to deal with them. My grandmother had to deal with it. I don't want my daughter to have to deal with it. I don't want her daughter or her son to have to deal with it.
It'll be a great world if you could wake up one day and not even know what racism is, but you would have to go back to when you was like, for me, it'd be like 86 when the Mets won their last World Series. I was like 10. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know racism back then. I'm just worried about G.I. Joes and Transformers. Like that would be dope if we could just get to the point where people don't even know what racism is. You know what I'm saying? Because racism, like people was raised, like they were slaves for like 300 years. People are born into slavery. That's all they know. Now we could like reverse that and have 300 years of not even knowing what slavery is. That would be an accomplishment, I think.
Yeah, it's just we've done backpack giveaways, we've done school drives. Our whole main thing is, you know, there's a whole side of this, and not even having to bring in the whole lockdown for the last 11 months, what it's going to do mentally to children, what them having to stay home and not being able to be kids has done to them. That's, you know, that might be, you know, irreversible in some, you know, some cases. But as Dave said earlier, we've lost people we know, their children have committed suicide, you know, because, so it's like, that stuff shouldn't happen, you know, especially over what color you are, you know. And I know a lot of kids, my daughter went through it. I know a lot of these other brothers' children went through it, feeling so bad about themselves because it's so polarized. It's on everything. So everything the kids have, iPhones, iTunes, you know, it's on YouTube. So their kids are being exposed to racism so earlier than I was. Me and Dave, same thing. The 80s, I didn't know what race was. We didn't you know, I didn't like you, it wasn't because of what color you were. So if we can, you know, kind of nip that in the bud, you know what I'm saying, now, and get it, you know, just deal with it head on and have some people hold accountability, you know, you just listen, learn, you know what I'm saying, be allowed to be educated, you know, be open to that. And a lot of people are out here in Bend I have to say to their credit, a lot of these Black Lives Matter movements, things I see on the streets and these protests, there's more white people than there are Black people. So that's a step in the right direction for me to see that, because I've never seen that in my life until George Floyd. And so we're hoping that, you know, with this being so polarized, all these kids are seeing racism and having to deal with racism so early. We're trying to get rid of that, you know, that whole sediment, just get rid of that whole thing. If we can do that, if we can change that culture, I think, you know, things can be a lot better. Because there's enough things in the world going on to fight about than, you know, to add more things to it. You know.
So
one
Brother
thing I'm proud of.
Mosley Wada has joined us, and I really want us to be sure to give him a bit of time. But let me, before it gets completely off somewhere else, the Fathers Group has become a critical player in the governmental structures of the city. We have what amounts to a memorandum of understanding. It's a memorandum of intent with the City of Bend City Council and City Manager. We have been invited to the table and had input into the process of selecting the new police chief, and in doing so have tried to insinuate ourselves into the discussion of policing and law enforcement here. As you know, there's a critical role to play in suppressing and oppressing our community, and not allowing our parents and our children to walk freely and to walk comfortably and safely. We have been absolutely brought to the table around the school committee and the selection of the superintendent, and more importantly, to participate in the training of teachers and the preparation of teachers to be effective working with culturally diverse kids, and we will be continuing to move on that. I just want to put that placeholder in there about the Fathers Group, because we're highly respected in the community and we're invited to participate and we're listened to. So with that, I'll turn it back to Brother Mosley.
Hey, Brother Mosley, how you doing?
Hey. I'm fine. I talk 90% of the time. And I listen like 10, but Gordon listens like 90% of the time, and then he speaks 10. So if Gordon was about to say something, we probably should shut up.
I did just want to say, I was, Jason, I love you. Thank you, sir. And I'll be quick. So one thing, I'm just proud of Fathers Group, because we were talking about building that community, but you know, in an area where, again, there's not a lot of people here that experience Black culture or know a lot of Black people, the role that the Fathers Group plays is pretty important, right? Because they see positive Black role models, right? They see Black men helping out with the Christmas drive with the police department. They see the Black men out giving away backpacks before school starts, right? They see Black men acting as welcome mentors, welcoming people of color to the city, right? You know, and engaging in that sense. And so that's changing a look at how we're looked at in this country, right? And how I would guess 75 of the people that live out in Prineville see Black people, right? They see us on the news, they see us doing this, that, they see us dribbling the basketball, they don't see us handing out backpacks, they don't see us doing that, right? And so I think that's part of what the Fathers Group is trying to change too, is that just that, again, to white people, that we are not just what you see on the news and what you see in the media. We are fathers, we are family members, we are building this community.
Exactly.
So, thank you, Jason.
Preach.
Crush that stereotype. Crush that stereotype.
Feel lit though.
Well, I apologize for being late. I'm glad that this was going. Not to perpetuate stereotypes. Sorry for being late.
No problem at all.
I will say, I have noticed there has been, and you know, again, I don't know if this has been said already, but Dalton was saying, well, I've heard it already, but it is something to note, to the credit of this community, how hungry it is, well, how welcoming it is now that there has been a paradigm shift to the kind of education, re-education that's necessary, as different than just being ravenous for a culture that it wants to consume, tear apart, and try to like see the insides of it, right? Like you see that in a variety of cultures that are oftentimes relegated to the shadows and the taboo and like whatever. We want to rip the thing apart and try to understand how it works after it's been totally decimated. This is different. This is seeing people as people. This is re-educating, but in a way that is unique to Oregon and is unique to Bend. This is in Central Oregon. This is happening because it isn't like in Atlanta, for example. The landscape here is just, the racial landscape here is just different. You have to interact in a different way here because this was a no slave state and a no black zone, no blacks here as well. So we are delayed in a way that right now seems to be, in a sense, to our advantage. I've also really appreciate the folks within this group who have continued to do the work past the immediate trends, right? Like, there's a lot of very boring administrative emails and meetings and things that happen that it has nothing to do with being seen publicly, that is happening within Father's Group, that is testament to how long it's going to last and how it's going to become part of this community from the soil up. And I don't necessarily know what other organizations there are, or that is to say that the organizations that are doing that right now are the ones that are going to be, in being generationally minded, are the ones that are going to have the greatest impact. And it's fun when it's flashy. I was so suspicious of the protests when they first happened here in town, not because I didn't believe in the heart of the thing, but I wasn't sure how many of those folks out there were interested in boosting Instagram account numbers or whatever. And obviously, obviously it can't about that. And I think it's important to be skeptical and critical of I'm very critical of myself in this way in terms of my participation with whatever group I'm in, because the responsibility that it takes to not only conceive of the thing, but carry it forward. Now I'm just thinking about like Lawrence Fishburne and like Boys in the Hood or whatever, but it is that very much is a very different thing to be able to conceive of an idea versus being a father all the way through from the seed on. And that's what's happening with this group, right? Like that's why there's so much interest in Father's Group, is because it's a much more mature approach to the kind of revolution that has been unfortunately over romanticized. Yeah.
Well, it's actually, we're getting the work done. We're meeting with people, we're doing all these things instead of just holding gatherings and yelling and holding signs, and we're actually meeting with the people that can actually get work done.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to understand, this is not a predominantly Black area. And so I know for me, only speaking from my eyes, coming from a place like California and a place, the Bay Area, where it's predominantly Black and Hispanic, it just was like, okay, this is different. What are we gonna do? How can we maneuver and do this in the right way, say the right things, look the right way and talk the right way? And so that's, we always, Black people always have to do that. Every time we talk to somebody, whether it be police or a lawyer or, anybody of a different color, we have to kind of downplay ourselves. We can't be ourselves, And so that was one of the main things that struck out to me when I went to the meeting. And I was like, look, we got to do this. Everybody was like, Dave, what are you talking? We just met, it was crazy. But it was like, I just feel this power, this energy. And if we can, convolute this whole area with that, it could change the game, because I mean, people don't know, people don't understand. And so it's just, we've seen so much stuff. And it's like Mosley was saying, it's just, we can't, it's not a predominantly Black area. We don't have there wasn't a lot of help. So it's like, we have to keep going. There's Marcus, and I can name all the names. We all just was like, we have to keep going, because if we don't do it, it won't get done.
And then we have to, as Black men, we have to deal with white men being jealous of us. You know what I'm saying? Because we are attractive to their women. And that's another thing. Like, usually it goes back to high school and your fights are over chicks. And it doesn't change I don't know how old you get. I don't know if it stops. Like Dalton, let me know if it stops at a certain time or whatever. Anyway, I like, but on the real tip, but on the real tip, we actually have to deal with that. Like, I have dealt with it. I've been out here 15 years, and it would suck for my son went to jail over some shit. So that's something else that we need to make our kids aware of, is that you come out here and it's all good, and then it's not. You're the first one to, you'll be the fall guy. These women out here, Lord of mercy, I'm not going to say anything else, just leave it at that. And then it's problems, and our young men, they need tools. You know what I'm saying? Because we have too many brothers in jail over stupid crap. You know what I'm saying? And the last thing a brother needs to do is be in jail over, some domestic crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a real thing out here. Like, we have like, that's for real out here. Dealing with the white woman and the black man, and then the white man and the black, all that is all bad. Like, that's a real issue. And yeah, that's what
What it is. It's almost like Bend is it's a state of acceptance, but they just need more understanding almost. You know what I mean? Because it's like growing up here, it's like what Dave said. I had to. It's not like I came from somewhere, so I had to change my demeanor. I kind of just grew up and developed my own demeanor being around here, and I do see it's way different. Like, my demeanor as a black man is way different from other black folk that I see, and it's like because they actually come from culture. I definitely see the difference there, and it's just a lack of understanding and education, I feel, and that's what I really want the Fathers Group to succeed in, and that's why I really want to help in. I want to set the tone for, this is who we are. We're not the stereotypical black men that you see on the TV. This is who we are, type thing. We're here to help. We're here to educate. We're here to.
That's what Trey and other people bring to the group, is that we can't all understand how Trey grew up. So it's like, it's a multifaceted thing that black people and when I say black people, I mean, if you're mixed, if you have black in you, you're black. As far like Dalton was saying, if you have black in you, even a little bit, you're black. And so for Trey, it brings a whole nother dimension to the thing, because it's like, yeah, we have all these things to deal with, and then Trey has both sides to deal with. And so we just want to, if we can, like I was saying earlier, if you can just eradicate that whole race thing and make it just about people based on principle, based on morals, based on ethics, based on how you conduct yourself, this world would be a whole better place, a whole different place, because there's stupid, ignorant people, and then there's intelligent people. If we're just all people, then we can worry about more serious, nature things. So yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's huge. It has the potential to be, huge.
Well, what was the question?
The question was life in Bend for a black man.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I believe
Mosley,
that was
you got that?
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, Mosley, I know you got something to say about that.
But that's what's been so nice about this, though, too. Like, understand this. Like, I have actively learned how to suppress as much as I can be on how I look, who I actually am, since being here, and before too. I mean, that's one thing that you get good at. That's part of the intelligence of being black in America today, or being told you're on my. Yeah, I mean, whatever the case, wherever you are in the world, if you are understood to be the outside group, then you learn very quickly what things to do to adapt, because we're communal and we're keen to survive. And it's only recently that I personally have had this, have been able to interact with black folks on a more than regular basis in person in my own community. Most of my life has been spent trying to adapt to people who believe that they are white and in the white culture. And most of my interactions with black folks have literally been on the phone and through emails and not in person. So it's almost, what's that?
You knew me back in the days.
And this is actually something that is very difficult about growing up here in Bend. I've known several folks in this group for a long time. There is a double reaction that happens. One, an immediate attraction to seeing another person who even remotely resembles an experience that you do. And then almost at the same time, repelled by them, not by them, but repelled because you do not want to highlight them as an only and other them in the same way that you have felt only and othered. And so there's this thing that happens there, and it is very difficult to explain what that is like to somebody who hasn't grown up in maybe a place like this. If you can walk down the street and you can see every different kind of person, I mean, countless times I tried to get my father to move from Chicago here, and he was like, no way, like, absolutely not. I can hear so many different languages when I walk down the street. I can go get a bean pie. I can go blah, 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 blah. If I'm in Bend, you're immediately a celebrity. You're immediately highlighted. You're so over highlighted in so many different ways. It is very difficult to interact with each other because I don't know what I need to do to be included or navigate not being excluded from your Black experience. And also, am I working on some sort of scarcity model? Have you created some sort of world around you that fits for your type of Blackness? But if I come in saying, hey, did you guys all see Adventure Time? And folks are like, wait, what kind of Black is this? You geeking out on me with Dungeons and Dragons, stop talking about Magic the Gathering, blah, blah, blah. Now am I confusing the whole world that you've delicately put together so that you can survive? So like, as much as nobody wants to see anybody get hurt, I'm so thankful for the positive things that have come from the murder and public death of George Floyd, because it gave us a way to interact with each other, to come and say, okay, this can't, I do see you. I have known you for years. We have talked, we are friends, we are family, whatever the case may be. And I'm not going to pretend that this couldn't happen anywhere and everywhere. And this was one sort of catalyzing, communal moment, but then that it grew beyond that. But that's been a real frustration with anybody. And we don't have a nod. We don't have a culture here in town. When you see Black folks in Bend, Oregon, if you try to make eye contact with somebody who's Black in Bend, especially if they move from somewhere else and they're just freaked out and you can see it on their face, they just will look through you often. And this is a stereotype that holds, or they'll look away, or you just ghost each other. It's not the, what's up? You don't get a little,
yes.
Or you
I
don't
just
get
walk up to them and shake their hand personally. I just walk right up to them. It's awesome.
I take off my mask and I just breathe real quick. No, that's not even fun. That's not funny. That's not funny. I have to. Can't be touching people.
I just walk up to them like, fuck it.
You're real. That's real though. That's every time I see a Black person I don't know, it's like, where's that? Hey, how you doing? Where's that? I see you.
Yep.
Throw the fist up, throw the deuce or something. It just,
Yep.
But you're right.
We saw that a lot.
We don't have a nod.
Sorry.
You're right, because when I came out here, that's what I felt. The looks and everything. It starts making you feel like it's hard to. You're right. It's hard to explain. You can't be seen as something without everybody noticing, because all eyes are on you.
Because
everywhere
you feel
I walk,
obligated to talk to other Black people.
Yeah,
they're Black.
Because especially where I'm from, you feel obligated. Like, hey, what's up? How you doing? They're like, but like you said, that makes so much sense. You get put in this little bubble. You don't even want to. It just forces you in this little bubble, and then you're like protecting that. You're protecting that bubble from all these needles trying to pop it. Like, hey, brother, no, back up, back up, back up. It's
Hey, I gotta go to this other event, but let me tell you that if there's a signification there when you see a brother and you go, or a sister, and you give the nod, and they look right through you and walk away. That's a whole story that you already know.
Yep.
All right. Hey, Bruce, thanks for having us in here, but I got to go to the next set of interviews, bro.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'll see you in about 30, brother.
See you, Trey. See you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be respectful of everyone's time. I know a couple of y'all gotta hop off. So I just got one more question for those who can stay on, which is, what do you see, going forward for the Fathers Group?
Can I go real quick?
Yeah, please do.
about the nod, Jason. I'm with you 100%, but that's what we're trying to build. We want students, families to be able to have that ability, to be able to know what that culture is, right? And Jason brought up a great point. I don't want to have to look through each other. I want to be able to, when I see a person of color, I want to be able to be like here or here or here or something that they know, hey, we're unified in what we're trying to do. And we're just trying to teach students that, because the last time I was on campus, Gordon and I worked together at COCC here, Central Oregon Community College. And I had a young brother who was a freshman. He was walking towards me and I said, "What's up, young man? What's up, young blood?" He jumped out of his clothes because no one has ever, no one has ever acknowledged him. Not just as a black man, as a person, you could tell, because every time I saw him, he always had his head down. You know, he didn't have his head up high. We all have been taught in our community, in the black community, hold your head up, be proud of who you are. Don't ever let anybody tell you you're something you're not. Students of color have been able to have to push that inward or somewhere else. We want them to bring that out. We want to bring the authentic person of who they are with the African spirit that we know they have inside them. We want that out. Because like, they know me, these guys know me. They know I'm pretty soft-spoken for the most part, but they know Nat Turner is right here in my heart, because I'm looking out for every person that wants to be a part of something special, right? And if you can't do that, do me a big favor, move out the way and let us partake in what we want. And that's basically building a strong foundation for not only the African-American men who were sitting on the screen today, but for the ones that's going to come after. And that's what the Father Group's all about. And if you can't feel that energy and want to be a part of that, step aside. Let us do our thing, because we know who we are, not only as men, but as people in this world. And if you try to deny us that, we're just going to walk right through you. So that's the way I come from in terms of that. And I'm not trying to say, I'm trying not to be mean or boastful or anything like that. All I'm saying is this: I want to see us unified, and I want to see us working together with no problems. You're going to have your hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I want us to be strong and unified in what we do. And I want to thank these brothers for being here every single moment here in this past year and the times we've been able to commune with one another. And that's what I have to say in terms of what I see the Fathers Group going.
I see the Fathers Group, if I could sum it up in one way, it's, we're planting that tree. Well said, Marcus. We're planting that tree that, we're not going to be able to bask in the shade of, but we're doing it because we don't want other folks like us to have to go through what we went through. It needs to be better. That's simple. I like the way Marcus put it. I want to end it on a soft note. Marcus kind of came with the either get out the way or we'll go through you. I like that. But it's still it's still good, It's peaceful. Yeah. It's all love.
We need to be a positive foundation for our people, for when they can't get something that you see a door close, we'll be able to help them get through that door. That's what we need to be able to do for these people. We need to help our own people get them through doors that they can't get through, that they have to do something stupid to get through because of other entity. You know what I'm saying? We need to help.
Let's provide that opportunity for sure.
Yeah, because I wasn't taught. I wasn't taught. I was raised in my mother raised me. Stepfather. I never met my father. We weren't raised to know what politics was. We weren't raised to know what financial systems were. We weren't raised. I didn't take any of those journeys to be a doctor or a lawyer. What we seen was what you emulate as a kid. And what we seen in our communities was drug dealers and, things like that, and going to jail, and father being separated from his home, and the kids, not knowing what to do and how to act and how to be and how to. So what we're trying to do is, get rid of rip that whole plan up.
It's almost like when Black kids back in the Western times couldn't read. They took away just that simple knowledge of reading. Like, we take for granted being able to read, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of kids that don't know about how to get to colleges, certain avenues to colleges, programs, grants, this, that, and the third, just because they don't know, because maybe their father's not there and they have to raise their family, so they're home. Like, we don't want these kids to be 15-year-old, 30-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? We want these kids to live their life so we could better ourselves and have the same avenues and opportunities that everybody else has.
Yeah. We want to build that foundation for people of color. We want to build that foundation and have it be accepted by the rest of the world. We want to build a foundation where our kids are taught necessary things on how to survive in this world. Because we're not taught that. I wasn't.
I mean, I was taught things, but not everything that I needed to know.
No. And too much, we fall short.
I think Super Dave said it best for me earlier when he said this is a generational thing, right? We're not just talking about my kids, we're talking about hopefully my kids' kids, right? So building the foundation for a generational support, right? Because that's where we need to start. I mean, that's where we need to go. This isn't a fly by night. This isn't just us. This is for future. As the native population of this country says, right? We work for, is it 7 generations ahead, right? When we're making decisions, when we're looking at what we want to do as a people, they look ahead 7 generations, right? So
yes,
I think we've been stuck in, which is unfortunate. I was getting ready to say we've been stuck in, but so have they. But they have I think they've got a more mature world vision in a lot of ways than maybe the Black community does.
Yeah, country, like us Black folks, we got to stop living check to check. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're living big. Like, we need to stop living check to check. Like, we need to be doing bigger things.
Our kids need to be taught how to maneuver the political systems and the financial institutions and be able to make a living like anybody else. You know, just like, you know, there's been many rights movements and Black Lives movements seem to always fall short. Always. It's never quite the same as everybody else's experience in this country. It just isn't.
And if they kill one of us, and I hope nobody dies, there's at least 17 more of us to keep going on, maybe 30 of us. It's not just one person. Yeah. So just saying, I mean, I just got to throw that out.
That's why we can only meet at like 6 or 7 of us at the time, right? We can't all meet as all of us because we got to split up. That's what
it's that undercover.
They can't find all of us at one time.
That undercover operation. You know what I'm saying?
It's saying.
But no, it's sad. But yes, that's what we have to do. We have to change the whole culture, man. I mean, not change our culture, but change the culture that is taking root in this institution, this country. This, you know, it's not correct.
And we can't get infiltrated by the bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard work. It's a lot of work. It's hard work.
But
I'm determined, and I know everybody that on this call has been determined to keep moving forward. So I must be the brothers.
Yeah. We're all dedicated. All right.